Volleyball is a lot of fun. It's a low-budget version of Formula One racing where there are big crashes and fires. You don't need a big budget, but it can change your life forever, like it did for Corinna Atchison. She's coaching now, and she's been a volleyball player for many years. Sure, she's been injured, but Atchison, 36, who played briefly in college and started coaching at 20, deals daily with symptoms from concussions from being hit by volleyballs, but can't stay away from what hurt her. In the past 4 years, Corinna Atchison has coached 3 TAV teams to national championships, including the USA Volleyball 13s Open this past summer. She is the 2016 AVCA 13s Club Coach of the Year. She's 36 now. She has brain injuries from volleyball, but instead of staying away from the sport and minimizing the damage, she just can't stay away, and she's helping other young girls to get started down this path to permanent brain injury. Memory loss. My first diagnosed concussion was in 2012, 2 days before USAV Nationals in Columbus, Ohio. During a practice, I was walking across the 10-foot line while my players were serving. A short serve struck me in the right temple. There was little pace on the ball, but because of where it hit me, the effect was immediate. All I remember is a flood of tingling, numbness, ringing in the ears, and just not feeling right. I walked over to another coach and said, if I fall over and go unconscious, it's because I just got hit in the head and I am not okay. My eyes were fully dilated and I was slurring words. The trainer conducted several concussion protocol tests. In one test, she provided me with 3 words to remember, waited 30 minutes, and then asked me what they were. I had zero clue that she had even talked to me. This volleyball lover has experienced extreme pain and acute memory loss, but she just sticks with it. Can't get away from it. She could have quit, but as a dog returns to his vomit, so a fool returns to his folly. Proverbs 26:11. The Bible may have a blunt characterization, but when people are addicted, even though they're injuring themselves, ruining their lives, they just can't quit. We studied this in my cheese video where we talked about pizza addiction and obesity. Learned about this in my coffee video where we talked about caffeine docking at the adenosine receptors, making people think they have a lot of energy when they're actually tired and need their sleep, and about how that is addictive. This is the story of America. Addictions, people are hurting themselves, but they love the addiction and just can't quit. So she kept playing and getting concussions. 6 weeks later, I was back in the gym for a volleyball camp. Some girls were peppering and an errant ball hit me in the head, resulting in the second concussion. My doctors now suspect this was second impact syndrome, since I probably had not fully recovered from the first concussion. Immediately after being hit, 2 coaches noticed my glazed eyes and knew I was not okay. She hadn't fully recovered from her previous concussion, but was out there in the line of danger, which really raises a couple of questions. One of them is there any such thing as completely recovering from a concussion, that is, a brain injury? And why was it that she couldn't stay away? In the fall of 2014, she had become the head coach at Ursuline Academy. We started the school season at a tournament. As I was warming up the team, a ball hit me on the right side of the head. Everything went black, but I maintained consciousness. I walked to the bench with my head in my hands. I was extremely sick to my stomach. My ears were ringing loudly. Everything was leaning right. Noise and lights were crashing in all around me. I literally couldn't see straight, and my head felt like it was about to explode. Agony. Insane with pain, out of her mind. She had already experienced some pain, but she just had to come back for more. As I look back on those 6 weeks, I do not recall anything. My memories were swept away as if they never existed. After the 3 weeks passed, my team was in the playoffs, and I refused to miss those games. I didn't practice with the team, I just showed up to coach for the matches, and felt awful every second of it. Gym noise and lights were unbearable. Yes, she had suffered quite a bit. The lights, the noise was all unbearable. But she just had to lead the young girls deeper into the cycle of addiction, brain injury, and ultimate destruction. The story is tragic, but there are lessons to be learned. Repeatedly injured, permanent brain damage, can't stay away from the game, leading other girls into the downward path to dementia. And the results of this addiction? There is not a second of the day where I do not have a headache, where I do not feel slow or fuzzy, where I do not feel like I am going to fall over. That doesn't sound like much of a life. Her impressions were confirmed by the medical community. The doctor told her, "Corinna, you are kind of a mess." Kind of? So why did she have to suffer? I've always wondered why it happened to me and why I had to go through it. But I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. So why do they have this business? It's fun, a fun way to burn calories. Improves muscle strength and tone, teaches teamwork and communication, a great social activity. But there are so many things that are fun. Work isn't half bad. There's teamwork, communication, it's fun, and you can even get some money out of it. In all labor there is profit, Proverbs 14:23, as we see from these people having fun. But sports has something that those apple pickers didn't get in on. Guaranteed pain, and lots of it. Each year, more than 460,000 high school students, including more than 410,000 girls, participate in interscholastic volleyball. As participation has increased over the past 2 decades, the number of volleyball-related injuries has risen as well. And we see the pain of this athlete lying on the floor, grimacing. Hundreds of thousands of young girls who are addicted to pain and like fun attracted a certain crowd. A Wichita volleyball coach has been charged with child sex crimes. The alleged victim was a 16-year-old. Sanders owns the Wichita Volleyball Academy, where he coaches hundreds of girls each year. He also offers private volleyball lessons and is a former assistant coach at Wichita State University, which turned out to be a win-win situation. Both the coach and his girlfriend, athlete, got to be intensely physical. They had a lot of fun. And when it was all said and done, the coach even got in on some pain. He gets to spend a little bit of time in the judicial system, maybe even incarceration, don't know. He offers private lessons, of course, to hundreds of girls each year. And in those private lessons, he covers a lot of things that you may not think have too much to do with volleyball. And these people really like their pain? The volleyball thudded off the back of Hannah Zarnich's head, producing an instant searing headache. It was a hard shot. In part because Hannah was in her usual position along the front row, her back to the server, and hadn't seen it coming. That sounds like a lot of pain. You're probably thinking, Hannah Zarnich said, "This volleyball stuff doesn't suit me at all. I'm going to go out and do gardening or pluck the weeds out of my lawn." Some fun teamwork job like that. Well, not quite. There were some drugs available. She shook it off and kept playing. After the February game, the freshman at Chantilly High School took 2 Tylenol and finished the tournament, playing 2 more matches that day. She couldn't get enough of this. Total glutton for punishment, which she received. But that night the scary stuff started. Over the next 4 weeks, Hannah at times couldn't do her geometry homework because the symbols made no sense to her. She was intensely nauseated. She was constantly tired but had trouble falling asleep at night. She couldn't understand the crawling words on her family's TV screen. She was in bad shape mentally, and sometimes with brain injuries, there's no recovery, sometimes a partial recovery, and sometimes, apparently, a complete recovery. But as we saw in the tragic case of Corinna Atchison, any recovery that she received, she used to continue her association with the volleyball addiction. There are people who like young girls with a fondness for pain. A volunteer volleyball coach at Clay Chalkville High School has been arrested and charged after having sex with a 15-year-old student athlete. The woman, 22-year-old Willincia Harper, was handcuffed around noon on Friday. Anywhere where you have young girls with a fondness for pain and a lot of desire for fun, you can find coaches who are willing to take advantage of that desire for pain and fun. It's very commonplace in sports. Gerald Arthur Sandusky is an American convicted serial rapist, child molester, and retired college football coach. Sandusky served as an assistant coach for his entire career, mostly at Pennsylvania State University under Joe Paterno, from 1969 to 1999. He received Assistant Coach of the Year awards in 1986 and 1999. 30 years at the Sandbox, working with young boys. Got away with it the whole time, because this is not a rarity, it's commonplace in the world of sports. But then again, Sandusky learned about this when he was a young Catholic altar boy. See my video on what Catholic priests do to altar boys. He fell in love with the pain and the fun, took up with coaching, and he was able to inflict pain, receiving plenty of pain in prison, where he went to live after he got done coaching. And the children, they got some pain, they got some pleasure, they got everything out of sports that any sports addict would be looking for. Just all in a day's work. A former junior varsity volleyball coach at an East LA high school pleaded no contest Tuesday to molesting two 15-year-old girls and agreed to serve 3 years in prison and register as a sex offender for life. Jonathan Adam Roldan, 23, pleaded no contest to one felony count of unlawful sexual intercourse and one count of child molestation involving the second victim. They knew that sports had some pain. They didn't mind it. In fact, they must have found it to be kind of fun, because they wouldn't have gotten together with Coach Roldan otherwise. The coach obviously came up through sports himself. He knew a little bit about addiction and fun. Everyone was in a win-win situation until he was snapped up by the law and stuck in prison. They like to get intensely physical, lots of fun, there's teamwork, and plenty of pain to go around. Every person has said the exact same thing. They never thought it could happen. They never understood, they never empathized with someone until it happened to them or their daughter. Now they are stuck in this nightmare and trying to make sense of the situation, some of which could have been prevented. Stuck with the nightmare? Could have been prevented? The nightmare of having their young daughter sexually molested by a lesbian volleyball coach, getting into sexual relationships with some gentleman coaches, the volleyball trainer there at his volleyball school, private lessons, teaching the girls a lot about adult life, maybe just a few years too early, but there was plenty of pain, plenty of suffering. They knew about it. These stories about coaches getting together with young volleyball players are not a rarity. The stories about concussions and the lifelong consequences are also not a rarity. They know, or they can know. They still go ahead and do it? Could have been prevented. But if they're addicted to it, it can't be prevented. Cannot be prevented. But if you're ever wondering how to prevent it, you don't have to play volleyball or visit the games. Leave that to people who get their thrills from pain.